All right, welcome back. So in the previous video, we learned how to create a new case and how to do our first page capture. And now we're going to talk a bit about how we can use selectors. So this is a pretty unique feature of Hunchly and something we just kind of skipped over when we were discussing setting up a new case. So what is a selector? So a selector is a term borrowed from the intelligence world that really just means a unique piece of information that we can tie back to a target. So for example, as we know in this case, we're investigating me, Justin Sites. So a selector might be my Twitter username or my email address, a phone number that you might know of me. And so what we can do is we can add that information into Hunchly, and it's going to do a couple of things. When we first add a selector into a case that's already got pages, Hunchly is already going to search backwards through your case looking for that selector anywhere it can find it in the text. So this is actually a really important thing and why Hunchly collects full content captures of web pages as opposed to just taking screenshots. We are able to actually inspect that text and look through it as opposed to a screenshot where you're just kind of left with a picture and you can't actually search in it. So it's already searched backwards, looking through the text, looking for that particular selector. Now there's a few other features around selectors that will also be useful when you're doing your investigation. So if we take a look here, Hunchly has actually alerted us using this little red badge that there is a selector hit on this particular page. So that's telling us, hey, wake up, we found this selector on this page, and we can actually click on the extension and see what selector was hit. So we can see that the selector jms.py was hit, and it was for the case Justin Sites, just to remind us what we were actually doing. So the other cool thing that we can do, as you might have saw just briefly, is that we can turn selector highlighting on. So this is also a feature designed to fight against investigator fatigue. When you start to kind of wear down and you've been investigating for a while, you might not notice that a critical piece of information is on the page. So maybe you're looking at a huge table of names and email addresses and you scroll right past the fact that your target actually had registered their email address on a service or a particular social media account. And so by turning on selector highlighting done through your settings panel, we can actually tell Hunchly, hey, when you encounter a selector, we want you to highlight it on the page so that we can visually see it. It's going to pop out at us. So in this case, we've used the selector jms.py, which is my Twitter handle, and very clearly we see it pop out on the screen that, hey, this critical piece of information is right here in front of you. Don't miss it. Another way that we can add selectors as we're doing investigations, which is really common as you discover more information about your target, you're going to want to add it. So for example, if we wanted to add automating OSINT blog as a selector for us, we can highlight the text, right click on it in the Hunchly menu, say store text as selector. Now that selector is actually stored with our case. If we go back, we can actually see it stored here. We can see the hits that have been registered for that particular selector, which means it'll tell us what URLs were found, where we found this particular selector. Every new URL you go to that has this selector in place, you will also see show up. So let's click on my Twitter feed. All right, so this is the front page of my Twitter. I'm not currently logged in. We can see automating OSINT blog is highlighted, jms.py is highlighted, and of course if we go back and review our dashboard, we see that it has also been added to the list. So we can always go back and review the list of URLs where we found that particular selector and when we found it as well by looking at the timestamp on the left-hand side. All right, so that covers selectors. Very useful feature, something I use in all of my investigations. In the next video, we're going to cover how we can use the note-taking system to set some investigative milestones within our investigation.